Welcome into the On3 studios here in Nashville, Tennessee. It is Thursday morning, and we are waking up to a new day in college football. Nick Saban, he stepped down. He's retired as the head coach at Alabama. And how are we all feeling about this today? I guess it depends how you feel. It depends which side of it you're on, if you're an opponent of Nick Saban's or if you're an Alabama fan. But it definitely makes college football feel a little unbalanced, like the ecosystem is kind of out of whack. 17 years at Alabama, and in those 17 years, Nick Saban finished with the number one recruiting class 11 times, the number two recruiting class 4 times. So 15 out of 17 years, Nick Saban finished number 1 or number 2 while he was at Alabama. Just an incredible run on the recruiting trail. So my question is now, does this level the playing field from a recruiting perspective? For so many years, Saban has been able to land who he wants, right? Whether it's SEC rivals or whether it's anywhere in the country, Saban, he can go into your state. Take Louisiana, for example, and spoil LSU class by taking one of the top players out of the state of Louisiana. He's gone into Georgia and landed a Bulldog legacy recruit. He's gone into the state of Florida. He's pulled out top players like Eddie Jackson, Jerry Jeudy, Calvin Ridley, Derrick Henry. This is the coach that can go into the state of Iowa the night before National Signing Day and flip the number 1 player in the state of Iowa away from Iowa, Caden Proctor. Let me know what you guys think of all this. Does it truly level the playing field? Is the Bama brand strong enough to keep it rolling after Saban? Whew, such a shocker last night. Let me know what you guys think. We got a lot of recruiting to cover today. I'm excited to do it. We're about to get it going, but first, hit subscribe for me. Look at this thing. We almost got the page to 40K. With your help, I think we can get there. Hit subscribe for me, please. All right. We've seen one major domino fall as the result of Nick Saban retiring. Last night, I don't know, about an hour it was a couple hours after the news broke. It was after the sun had went down, and Nick Saban announced his retirement about 4 p.m. But Hayes Fawcett of On3 broke the news. Ryan Williams, 5-star wide receiver committed to Alabama, was the first recruiting casualty of Nick Saban's retirement. Ryan Williams announced that he had decommitted from Bama. Now, Ryan Williams, 5-star recruit, had been committed to Bama for a long time, has official visits already set. This was already the plan, but he was going to visit Alabama, Texas, and then Auburn to round out the month of January and then make his decision on February 7th and sign. Now, he was committed. Like I said, he decommitted. He still plans to take those visits. Now, I think he will be patient here. I think Ryan Williams will wait to see who Alabama ultimately hires. But it'll be big to see if he makes it to campus. Does he still visit? Does he take that official visit? Which I do think he will, but that'll be something to watch. I think Auburn, they're really the team to beat here, even though he's fresh off that decommitment from Alabama. I think Auburn had the best shot at flipping him prior to this. Now, Texas is involved. A&M also working an angle here. I think A&M probably on the outside looking in right now, but Texas, they are a team to watch. So we'll continue to keep you guys updated on these major developments. Also, On3's Pete Nakos reported this morning, Alabama athletes will be able to transfer in conference, and there is a 30-day window for Bama players to enter the portal. I believe that started yesterday, but as you know, it takes about 2 to 3 days to see names appearing in the portal unless the player announces himself. So as of now, nobody's in the portal, but there could be some announcements coming. So this is going to be an off season really like no other, because a lot of us haven't followed recruiting in an era where Nick Saban isn't coaching, but we'll keep you guys covered. We'll keep you updated. Just hang with us. We got a great show today. Michigan. We're going to cover Michigan recruiting coming off that natty. Can they flip Bryce Underwood, the number 1 quarterback in America? Tennessee, they're now trending for the number 2 quarterback in America, George McIntyre. Alabama was the team trending for him before, but now it's Tennessee. We're also going to talk some portal combat with Jerry Hamilton, Texas Longhorns, and Texas A&M Aggies. We got some intel on the way. All right, let's get to it. What's it going to take for a team in Texas to win the SEC conference? Well, the offseason is where championship runs are made, and today we're going to talk Texas and Texas A&M in the transfer portal. Have they done enough? But before we get going, hit subscribe for me. We talk recruiting, we talk transfer portal. It's 365 days out of the year, all recruiting all the time. Hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's bring on three's Jerry Hamilton, and we'll start with the Longhorns, Jerry, in the portal. They've added Matthew Golden from Houston, safety Andrew Makuba from Clemson, and edge Trey Moore from UTSA. Now, Jerry, Matthew Golden, he's on board, but we know Texas wants more wide receivers. How many more do they need? And you got any names for me?
Yeah, I think they'll take at least one more out of the portal. I think 2 is pretty much the number. Obviously, Matthew Golden, he kind of fills. He's also a kickoff return guy, so he fills something there, as well as wide receiver. C.J. Daniels, the Liberty transfer, visited Texas last weekend after visiting Auburn and Florida in the previous 3 days. He's probably the name to know right now. We'll see if anybody else jumps in the portal. There's also Silas Bolden at Oregon State, who may make a visit to Texas this weekend if C.J. Daniels doesn't have a decision. There's been a little quiet confidence in the last 24 hours out of Austin on C.J. Daniels. We'll see if that comes true, because obviously Liberty is still trying to get him to go back to school as well, like Caden Salter, the quarterback, did. But C.J. Daniels is the main name to know right now.
Yeah, the portal's crazy. I mean, you got Texas, you got UF, you got Auburn, but you also got to battle Liberty as well. So who knows what's going to happen with C.J. Daniels?
And just national title game just ended. Guys have 9 days to go in from the national title game. Who knows who's going in?
Yeah. And now let's talk about 2 guys that they've already landed, and that is Trey Moore, who's an edge, and then on defense you also have safety Andrew Makuba from Clemson. Are these additions starting line caliber players? Are they going to come in and compete for a starting job, or are they depth pieces for Texas?
I think all 3 of those guys are starting level players for Texas in the SEC. We talked about Golden. He also brings the kick return game. He scored 2 touchdowns against Texas this year. Very talented. Teammate of Jaden Blue at Klein Cain. But then you kind of look at Andrew Makuba. Yeah, absolutely. I believe he'll be a starter for Texas next year. The question is whether that's at nickel or is it safety. He's a guy with 150 tackles in his career at Clemson. He's played in a lot of big games, played against a lot of talent in neutralized situations. As a guy that's on NFL draft boards, he's absolutely, I think, is going to be penciled in as a starter at Texas. Trey Moore, if you watch the Washington game, Texas has to get edge pressure.
Yes.
And you're talking about one of the top sack guys in the country at UTSA. He's a little bit undersized, maybe doesn't have the ideal arm length in the SEC that you want, but he's so twitchy. I think he's going to bring pass rush off the edge, along with freshman Colin Simmons, that Texas was lacking last year.
Is there another need to fill beyond wide receiver for Texas right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Defensive line. Jamari Caldwell, the Houston transfer, visited last weekend. It's down to Texas and Oregon. Oops, Bo Davis just took the LSU D-line job. So what's going to happen there? You got to figure it's not Texas. Then there's linebacker, inside linebacker, with Jalen Ford departing for the NFL. You know, Kendrick Blackshire, the Alabama transfer, scheduled to visit Austin and Texas this weekend. An experienced adult in the room at inside linebacker is a need for Texas if after Blackshire visits he meets what they're looking for. So continue to look at wide receiver, defensive line, and linebacker.
All right, let's check in on the Aggies right now. They've had some big portal additions themselves, led by edge Nick Scorton out of Purdue, corner Will Lee, Cassius Howell from Bowling Green, Jabari Barber from Troy, and Dorian Hinton, a big offensive lineman from FAU. Did the Aggies add SEC caliber transfers in your opinion?
I think the jury's out on some of those guys, but I like what they've done in terms of kind of replenishing what they had to in the roster. Look, Scourton, who used to go by Nick Carraway coming out of Bryan High right down the road from A&M, he was almost a must-get for Texas A&M. When you look at Fadil Diggs and Walter Nolan leaving, transferring out of the program, then Isaiah Rakes, I mean, they took some massive hits on a tremendous defensive line. So Scourton is absolutely an SEC-level starting player. He's a guy that'll be an NFL player one day. That was a big pickup for them. Then you look down the wide receiver Barber. He's a guy who is he's a speedy guy with long arms. I think they need some of that speed. Obviously, Evan Stewart bouncing and leaving in the portal. That takes away a speed guy for Texas A&M. So Barber, I think, helps replace that. Offensive line is where, Mike Elko, whether it's through the portal, whether it's through high school recruiting in these next couple of classes, they got some work to do. Getting Chase Besantis to stay was key for them. We'll be interested to see if they move him inside or keep him at right tackle. But Hinton, at least, they can plug a little bit on the offensive line. Because last year it was a sieve at times, and they had to get some adults, some experienced guys in the room on the offensive line in this transition year. I think they've addressed some needs. Obviously, Jake Johnson's a big loss at tight end. They had some guys that were hard to replace, but I think they've done a good job. Will Lee's a lengthy corner. I'll tell you what they've done. They've taken a number of safeties. Mike Elko came into Texas A&M and obviously thought there was a real depth issue at safety. Obviously, Bryce Anderson's back, Jacoby Matthews, two really good players that are going to be juniors, but there was not depth behind them, and they've done a good job addressing that.
All right. And you mentioned a lot going out, a lot coming in. I think Texas A&M's total right now is at 21. I know they're over 20. So my question to you is Mike Elko flipping the roster, or is the roster flipping on him?
Can that be both? I mean, that's a great question, Josh. I mean, I think some of the guys that leave, I think you're okay with at times because you're going to come in, you're going to reestablish your culture, build things the way you feel like they need to be built versus how they were. And that's not an indictment on anybody. That's when any new coach comes in. But I think he's flipping the roster to have a chance to steady the ship next year and the year after. I think that's the main thing. Building through the high school level is still going to be key for him in the 25 and 26 classes. But I think what he's done right now is steady the ship, because for a while there, I think Texas A&M fans are like, what are we even going to look like next year? So at least now they have a picture of a guy that has a plan, and he's hired a quality staff, and now they're going to execute that plan. So I think he's kind of keeping things steady right now. He's getting some guys he likes on defense. They're going to fit his scheme, which I think is underrated when you look at where players transfer from.
All right. Now, at the beginning of the video, I posed the question, what's it going to take for a team from Texas to win the SEC? And at this point, I don't think it's really fair to put those expectations on Texas A&M. Like you said, Mike Elko is there to stabilize right now, not to win the SEC. I mean, that would be great. But has Texas done enough this offseason? Is the transfer portal, recruiting, have they done enough this offseason to win the SEC?
I think they still have some holes to fill now. I mean, with Jatavion Sanders going pro at tight end, he's a tough guy to replace for Texas. I mean, he's a downfield after-the-catch threat. There just aren't many of those guys. They're high draft picks in the NFL. So could Texas also take a portal tight end in the spring? That's something to watch as well. I think they've done enough through a third straight top 5 recruiting class. I think they'll end up with 5, 6, 7 guys out of the portal. They have 3 right now. I think they'll do enough to where they're going to be competing in that league next year for sure. I think they have too much talent at quarterback, an offensive line that's going to be experienced and older. So a lot of talented young guys coming in, some young guys at linebacker that Texas fans have seen Anthony Hill, but not some of the other guys. I think Texas is going to be right there to compete. Do they have the roster talent level of Georgia or Alabama next year? I think they're going to be a little bit cut below that as of right now.
Well, portal's not closed yet. There's still coaching change happening. There's still some 2024 recruiting going on. There's a lot to happen still. Jerry Hamilton, thank you for dropping by today on the Inside Scoop.
You got it.
The Michigan Wolverines are national champions, and top recruits from all over the country had to be impressed by that performance against Washington. We're going to talk about it in this video today. And I also want to find out, is it enough to flip 5-star QB Bryce Underwood from LSU? I got Michigan insider Zach Libby on to talk about the impact of Michigan's big win. But first, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits page. Exciting time to be a Michigan fan. Exciting time. Hit subscribe for me. All right, let's bring on Zach Libby from the Wolverine. Now, Zach, I got to ask, you've been in the streets, you've been all over, but what has been the reaction from recruits to Michigan's big win?
Yeah, right now we have over 130 recruits that have given their thoughts on the national championship win. And the basis is all the same. They saw what it takes to win a national championship, from the foundation to the culture to the camaraderie with the team. Some of these crews obviously have visited too, so they understand what the operation was for Michigan to win the national championship. So finishing the job per se.
Mm-hmm.
But, they saw that everyone bought in. They saw what happens when the cameras aren't rolling, specifically, development in the weight room, just friendship and unity with everyone. But they really just saw, their interests obviously rise too. I mean, there are guys who went on record saying that their interest in the Michigan Wolverines has risen just because of them having an offer
Mm-hmm.
from the national champs. But there were some specific ones that really stood out as well. I mean, you're talking about top 100 wide receiver Gatlin Bair from Burley, Idaho, the lone remaining Michigan target in the 2024 class. I mean, he told us he talked to Anderson, wide receivers coach Ron Bellamy the night before. And, this is a guy who visited for the Ohio State game, and he is being heavily prioritized by Michigan. So it was good for him. He told us just to see them win it all and allow the people that he's built relationships with in Ann Arbor to enjoy the moment. But when you talk about specific positions, I mean, obviously offensive line is one that stood out. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
guys like 300 interior option in Avery Gash from in-state, top 50 offensive tackle Andrew Babaloa. I mean, elite offensive linemen who have visited Michigan or have had contact with offensive line coach Sherrone Moore, who played such a pivotal role in this run to the national championship. But, certain regions too are ones to highlight. I mean, obviously the guys from Ohio, right? The 2025 guys who have not only visited Michigan, but are high on the board for the Wolverines. Marquise Davis, on 300 athletes, Dwayne Galloway, top 100 quarterback, another top 100 quarterback in Trey McNutt. I mean, guys who Michigan is going to end up having to do battle with in-state Ohio State or these other regional powerhouses. So having that national championship can give them a leg up, especially when they went after, key states like Ohio with so much talent available in this next cycle. But, there's others too, like commits, really, like Chris Ewald, top 100 cornerback from Chaminade-Madonna in South Florida. He mentioned to us, he has a lot of respect for Michigan and just allowing him to commit early and be that face of the class, be that guy that everyone mentions. Like, he is that guy in the 25 class for Michigan. And, we know that Ewald is garnering interest from the local schools like Miami and Florida State. But for him to be committed to a school like Michigan, who's won a national championship, and their, issue degree of him being, just as we mentioned, the face of the class, I think that means something, and a win means something for a kid like him. So overall, I mean, a win just did everything that Michigan wanted to do for recruiting in terms of just have them be in the minds of top recruits.
Yeah, and it helps with the commits. It helps with get a leg up on some of the competition. It can get a foot in the door, but Michigan fans want to know, can it help with Bryce Underwood? Does this national championship start a conversation with Bryce Underwood, who just about a week ago committed to LSU?
Look, I think Bryce is more than happy with finding his school last weekend. I think LSU did a phenomenal job during the recruitment process of not only with Underwood, but his entire family. I will say this. I think now that Bryce is committed to the Tigers, I think Michigan fans will finally begin to realize what type of athlete they got in quarterback commit Carter Smith out of Fort Bishop Verot. And, he's a kid who committed less than 2 weeks after his first ever visit to Michigan for the Purdue game in November. He is the reigning Florida Gatorade Player of the Year, a true dual threat. And he is one, based on interviews that we have done with the Wolverines since his commitment, he is taking an active role in peer recruiting. You want to talk about a guy who has the energy, the persona, the type of team morale that J.J. McCarthy has done as a recruit and commit, and then later as a starting quarterback. I feel like Carter Smith is going to have that type of role as well. So I think, one, it's tough, for an in-state school like Michigan to lose out on a generational quarterback like Bryce Underwood, but they got a really, really good athlete and a true leader in Carter Smith. So I feel like Michigan fans should be excited with what is already locked in right now.
All right, so what is next for recruiting? The season's over. Do you expect the Wolverines to hit the portal? Inside Scoop fans, college football season is wrapping up, and it also means that the NFL is winding down as well. But there's still some great games left in the season. And you know what's not great, though? Finding last-minute tickets. Finding last-minute tickets, it can be a nightmare. Do not let this be the way your 2024 goes. That's why I'm here to tell you about Game Time. It is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the big-time matchups. The Game Time app is great. It's easy to use, and it works in any city, any team. And you get the best price guarantee. Do not stress over getting into your team's favorite games anymore. There's only so many big games, and you need to get these tickets at the best prices. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Game Time is obsessed with finding ways to help you save money. Zone deals, all right? This is where you pick a section, and Game Time picks the seats for big savings. So here's what we're going to do. Snag the tickets without stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code INSIDESCOOP for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code INSIDESCOOP for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan hits the portal in a strategic way.
Right.
They go after plug-and-play guys who can immediately fill in the roles of a starter. But there are certain positions, that Michigan can go after. I mean, first off, we got to talk about quarterback. The status of J.J. McCarthy, whether or not he leaves for the NFL hasn't been determined yet. So if he leaves, you got to fill in a guy who can be an immediate starter and possibly, a developmental role for the next couple of seasons. Offensive line is another one. I mean, starters like Trevor Keegan and Ladarius Henderson have accepted Senior Bowl invites, so guys who can be immediate starters there. Defensive line, I mean, Chris Jenkins, Cam Good, they're gone. So that's a position, too, where defensive line coach Mike Elston loves to just rotate guys and keep them fresh and healthy throughout all four quarters. So having depth pieces is crucial there. Defensive back, I mean, Mike Sanders still – is gone for the NFL. Guys like Cam Calhoun entered the portal and is committed to Utah. So you want like a number 2 piece for next season right next to Will Johnson. So, and then another one is wide receiver. I mean, Worldman Wilson just accepted his Senior Bowl invites. Cornelius Johnson is out of eligibility. That group right now is loaded with younger talent. But if you can bring in a veteran wideout, that would be huge, especially like as an outside, bigger body threat. So there's certain positions that Michigan go after, and I feel like if they do, they're going to bring in guys who can be immediate starters.
Yeah, Michigan, they're going to utilize the portal, but they're going to be strategic about it. You're not going to see them bringing in double-digit 15, 20 portal transfers this offseason. But I got a question. We know they're going to recruit well heading into this offseason, but for Michigan to truly capitalize on their ability to recruit, do they need to kind of lock in Harbaugh or kind of quell some of the questions that are surrounding his tenure? Do you think that needs to happen, or they're going to recruit well regardless?
I would say that the sooner that Harbaugh gets extended, the easier it'll be to capitalize.
Yeah.
Harbaugh is obviously a draw, right? From his playing career to a Super Bowl appearance coach and now a national championship coach. I mean, his ability to connect with recruits and their families to just closing with top targets. I mean, he is clearly an asset when going after the country's top targets every cycle. Right. If there's guarantee that Harbaugh gets extended, then there's no speculation, I believe, from recruits and their loved ones about the future of the program. And that really just consists of who's leading the program. That also just includes, right, like which assistant coach stay or not, and so on and so forth. But this will be like the third straight offseason in which there are Harbaugh to NFL rumors. And the past two, I believe, really put a dent in, I guess, maximizing winning a Big Ten title, beating OSU, a college football playoff appearances, and translating that to recruiting trail results. But, I mean, President Santa Odo athletic director Warren Manuel have gone on record saying they want Harbaugh back. The fans want Harbaugh back. The team wants Harbaugh back. So, I mean, worst case, should Harbaugh leave? I mean, the obvious choice, to have that culture remain, to have the foundation remain, and just keep the energy that Harbaugh kind of built around the facilities, is to promote Sharon Moore, offensive coordinator and offensive line coach. A guy like Sharon Moore is shown to be an elite recruiter. His ability to build relationships away from football with recruits. And I mean, he is 4-0 as an acting head coach this season, with wins against Penn State and OSU. But, if you can have everyone back, and that includes Harbaugh and the assistant coaches, you can have, just maximizing results immediately on the recruiting trail. And that starts this month with junior day visits.
Yeah, and I thought maybe you were going to say the best person to replace him could be Brian Kelly. That way he brings Bryce Underwood with him. But, hey, we're not going to go there. We're not going to go there on this show. We're not going to go there. But I do agree with what you say. I mean, look at this offseason, or this season, I should say, the 2024 cycle. Michigan finished 15th. Not bad by any means, but if those rumors weren't swirling all summer and into the season, then they probably would have recruited better. So it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of quiet these rumors quickly and go hit the recruiting trail and really capitalize. We'll see what happens. But Zach Libby, you guys have been killing it on the Wolverine. Great coverage all weekend into the national championship game. It's going to be a fun offseason. Thank you for dropping by the Inside Scoop.
Appreciate it, Josh. Thanks.
Nick Saban retired in Tennessee, is now trending for the number 2 quarterback in America. We're going to talk about what went down last night for George McIntyre to now be trending to Tennessee. And in this video, I got Tennessee insider Austin Price on. He's going to take us behind the scenes of this recruitment. But first, Tennessee fans, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. It is an exciting time right now. I mean, the SEC, the balance of power, it's all out of whack. Going to be a fun offseason. Hit subscribe. Going to want to be a part of this channel. All right, let's bring on Austin Price from VolQuest. Austin, we'll get into George McIntyre in a minute. Want to talk a little O-line transfer portal talk real quick. Zalance Hurd leaving LSU, probably the top available offensive lineman right now. Visited Tennessee last weekend. What are you hearing from your sources as we're now midweek?
Yeah, I continue to feel like Tennessee's in a really good spot. This is one that's kind of had a lot of ebbs and flows to it. He visited Tennessee for about a 6-hour visit last Saturday. Then went to Norman, Oklahoma, and visited the Sooners. Ole Miss has tried to get involved, but and they're basically seeing if he'll come there this weekend. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Tennessee's in a really good spot here, and we'll see if Lance comes to a decision sooner rather than later.
That would be a huge addition in more ways than one. Anybody else on the offensive line that Tennessee fans need to know?
Yeah, Percy Lewis, offensive tackle from Mississippi State, is scheduled to be here this weekend. We'll see if that the visit comes to fruition. But right now, he's still set up to be here, and Tennessee, needs to build depth. They really don't have a whole lot of offensive tackles. So, is that the one they take a look at? They have John Campbell still on the roster. They have Dane Davis, but with Hurd technically not announcing as of 10:15 Eastern time when we tape this, you have to continue the progression of getting Percy Lewis to campus.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens this weekend. Could be some big moves in the transfer portal for Tennessee. Now, I teased it at the top. Tennessee, after Nick Saban announces his retirement, starts trending for a top QB. So prior to last night and that big announcement from Nick Saban stepping down, George McIntyre was trending to Alabama at close to 80% on the recruiting prediction machine. So what happened? Well, I flipped my prediction from Alabama to Tennessee in the guise of Nick Saban's retirement announcement. The number 2 ranked quarterback in America is now trending to Tennessee. Now, of course, this isn't news to Austin Price. I mean, he's probably been telling me for a month that I need to flip my pick. So, Austin, when is George McIntyre expected to announce a decision?
It's much longer than that, Josh. This was September. I can tell you where I was. I was getting ready to do Clinton and Anderson County high school football on a Thursday night, and I sat in the parking lot and said, "You shouldn't have done that. You're going to be wrong."
Well, I got to use the guise of that big announcement last night to kind of slip it in there that, by the way, I think he's going to Tennessee now.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think Josh Heupel's done a really nice job in this recruitment. Tennessee has been right there at the forefront. Now, George, I told you then, what was my word? My exact words were, if you're trying to read anything George McIntyre is doing, you are going to fail. And that goes for anybody. It doesn't matter if it's Chad Simmons, guys at the other networks. It doesn't matter. Like, George is maybe like the most flatline, cool customer you can't read. Like, I'd love, if that kid was good at poker, he'd make millions because he is fantastic. And maddening if you're trying to follow him. So, this is a kid that I just think is a really good kid. He's got a burning desire to win. Didn't win enough this past year at the high school level, and I know he is just driven to flip that going into his senior year. But Tennessee's done a really nice job with George, and super talented kid, freak athlete. Got to continue to put weight on, and he knows that's a very much an important thing. But kid can throw from several different angles with his arm, and throws on the move extremely well. And I think he is if not one of the top couple of quarterbacks in the country for that 2025 class.
Yeah, well, the industry ranks him as the number 2 quarterback in the country. When is he expected to announce?
He's not announced his decision date yet. I think the rubber's meeting the road, though. I think it's going to be probably in the next week or so. Yeah. And this is a kid, again, who likes to play everything close to the vest. So we'll kind of wait and see when he drops his official date. But I do think that to quote Tom Hanks, the earth is getting bigger in the window from Apollo 13.
So with Alabama, kind of seemingly out of the picture now with McIntyre, is there any team that Tennessee fans need to keep an eye on as we kind of close in on this decision?
I mean, other schools are going to continue to recruit George, but his top 3 of LSU, Alabama, and Tennessee, Alabama doesn't have a coach. LSU just got Bryce Underwood, and of course you got the Vols, who, again, George has been filling Tennessee for quite a while, in my opinion. So, again, there's going to be teams that continue to call him, and they should, right? I mean, that's pretty natural for anybody. But I don't think there's just one set team that you go, that team's lurking in the weeds for George McIntyre. You have to pay attention to them. I think right now it's kind of like, everybody will kind of reassess here in the next couple of months as this thing kind of continues to unfold.
How important is it to get George McIntyre on board in this 2025 class, really even before junior days begin?
I think it's massive. I think, for Tennessee, to get it, they got a big junior day next weekend. They've got one coming up on February 3rd. And to have George potentially in the boat, by next weekend, to maybe be in town on February 3rd would be big for Tennessee because, you look at Radarius Jackson, you look at Cam Sparks, you look at Caleb Cunningham, right on down the list. There's a lot of, targets that George talks to on a routine basis. Then there's the offensive linemen, David Sanders, Josh Petty,
right.
All players that Tennessee are heavily involved in. And so getting your franchise quarterback in the boat early on would be big for Josh Heupel and Tennessee.
Especially since he lives in Nashville. So he's going to essentially, anytime there's a big visitor on campus, George McIntyre can kind of be part of that welcoming committee every weekend. So it's going to be massive if and when he joins the class. But for now, Austin Price, thanks for keeping us updated on the latest developments with George McIntyre and the transfer portal.
Appreciate it, Josh.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.